All right. Next up, we're going to be joined by Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Miller Lite Ford for Team Penske. If you have any questions for Brad, please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation, and we'll get you a microphone. Go to Lee down here in the front.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Can you talk a little bit about, I know everyone doesn't know what the package is going to look like until you get out there, but you kind of get a feel for what we might see this week yet?
Yeah, Lee, it's really hard to answer. I know a little bit better after practice, but there's so many variables that it's hard to predict every one of them, and we can make some educated guesses, but my initial thought is that it would look a little bit like last week, but now I'm not quite so sure because the way that the tracks kind of run in. So the biggest variables are going to be how many lanes are available for the cars to have grip and to corner with. Because the wider the track is in the corners, the better the racing's going to be. So we really won't know that till after all the practice sessions and really even in the race, how wide it gets. And the wider it does get, the better the race is going to be. And I can see the potential for it to do just that. So, but I don't know. The variables that, come into play with that are the races beforehand. I think we have the Xfinity race beforehand, the ARCA race beforehand, and all the different tire compounds, the Hoosier compound, the Goodyear compound, and how they all interact. So there's a lot of things that come together that create the type of racing. And like I said, there's a lot of variables that come into play, and some that we have control of and some that we don't, and some that we have knowledge of and some that we don't. So it's very, very difficult at the moment to predict. But I think we're all very hopeful that it'll look a lot like Kansas. We won that race, so I'm very hopeful for that as well. And that was a great race for sure.
And last week, Kyle Busch was talking about just this package and that he doesn't feel like he can put his talent or display, his proper talent. Do the drivers kind of feel neutered with a 550 engine package?
Well, I mean, it's definitely different. There are some things you could do now that you couldn't do before. There are as many, if not more, things that you could do before that you can't do now. So, I wouldn't go so far as to say the word neutered, as much as I would just use the word different. But, at the end of the day, it's still a challenge. There's still a race to be put on, and there's going to be a winner, and there's going to be a lot of losers. And the basics remain the same.
Go to Eric in the back.
Problem.
The superspeedway.com. Brad, this is your home track. You've come close here. Where would a win at Michigan rank for you?
Yeah, I feel like I've sat here on this podium here the last half a dozen years after the race, finishing second or third, which really stinks, but it's better than finishing poor. But not the win that, of course, we're looking for. It's a huge, item on the bucket list, a check mark that's not there. And I feel like we've had the opportunities. I've made a few mistakes, and I feel like in some ways we've been good but not great enough to do it. So, I think probably 2012 had a real good shot at winning it, and we weren't the best car. I don't think we've ever really come here and been the best car, but we were in position, and I made a little mistake late that probably cost us. Other than that, we've been just kind of right there. And someone once told me that to win races at the Cup level, you run in the top 5 and things will fall your way. And we've done that a lot here. We've run in the top 5, and it hasn't come together, it hasn't fallen our way. And I just got to believe in the back of my head that it's there, and that it will if we keep doing the things that we've been doing. But it hasn't yet, and that's just the reality. So it would certainly be one of the biggest wins of my career, I guess, to answer your question, Eric. And I try not to think too much about it because you just get some bad vibes going, I think, and you don't just do your thing. But it's certainly always on my mind.
We'll go to Bob, then Dustin, and then Reed.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Next up is Sonoma. Will you prepare any differently with the addition of the carousel? Will you spend any more time in I don't know how much simulator work you do. Or is it just, okay, it's just another turn and we're going 20 fewer laps?
Yeah, it's going to be a much different race. There's no doubt about it. With respect to taking out one of the key passing zones, turn 7, and also turn, I guess it was 4B. Or there are a lot of A's and B's. I might not have them all right, but I'm a C student. You're asking me about A's and B's. But it's going to have an effect on how the team sets up the car, and definitely on the racing in general, I think, Bob.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Brad, last year in here, when you were asked about the All-Star package and the potential of being run this year, one of the things you said is, I think we should always be mindful of our responsibility as a sport to make sure the best drivers are able to showcase their talent. It's not a half a season, still some tracks you haven't been to, but with this package, how are you able to showcase talent, or are you not able to showcase driver talent as much, looking back from what you said last year?
Well, it's definitely different. It's a bit more of a chess match than it was just, probably more or less the raw talent phase. But, I haven't put a lot of thought into that as of late, to be honest with you, Dustin, because the reality is the rules are what the rules are. And I feel like I can spend a lot of time and energy really digesting my thoughts and all that stuff, Dustin. The reality is I'm not going to be able to change it. It kind of is what it is, and it's my responsibility / opportunity to maximize our performance within whatever given rules are out there. So I don't know if I have a great answer for you, because I haven't really, and nor do I want to, digested or reflected upon the differences all that deeply, because I feel like I've just kind of entered a mode of, this is what it is, either get happy with it or find something else to do, and I really don't want to do something else. I want to win another championship, and I want to win races like this one, and I don't want to waste any of my brain space that I have available, which is very limited, thinking about things I can't change.
Is there something as drivers, obviously, the frustrations we pointed out, that can be talked about to look at things for next year so that maybe there's less of that frustration? There's still going to be a challenge, no doubt, and there's still other
Sure.
factors too. Car owners have to be factored in because of things like that. But is it something to say, or something that can be processed as they're going through rules for next year, or even the Gen 7 car?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that can always be done. I think the blessing and the curse of this sport is that we go to so many tracks in so many different cities that are laid out so much differently. And the blessing and the curse of that is that, of course, it creates some variation that leads to new and exciting, unpredictable things. The curse of that is it's very hard to optimize a rules package for NASCAR and for the teams that is cost-effective, efficient, all those good business words, but also optimized for any given track's ability to put on the best race possible. And that challenge has been such a case for decades and will most likely be a challenge beyond that. And it seems at the moment that maybe we've made some trades to optimize tracks that perhaps weren't optimized before at the expense of some that were. And that just kind of is what it is. It's not really in my hands to make those decisions.
Go to Reed over here.
Team Penske, Reed Spencer, NASCAR Wire. Team Penske's got 4 wins this season. JGR's got all the rest except for Talladega. Where do you think you guys stack up right now as the second half of the season progresses?
Yeah, I think Reed, we're fairly pleased with where we're at. Of course, wanting more. To have 3 wins and not even be halfway through the season. I don't think we're halfway through the season. We're 16 weeks, something like that in?
Yeah, 18 is half.
So 18
We're in 15.
or 15 this week. 18 is half. There's the exhibition race. It depends on how you do the math. But, to have 3 wins for the 2 teams is something we're really proud of. Reed, I think that we can, make more. We had a year where we had 6 wins, and we're on track to do just that. So I would be thrilled to death if we could have 6 or more wins in a season, and that's a good mark to have as a race car driver. And with that in mind, I think we got a lot of opportunities. I think this weekend's going to be an incredible opportunity. I'm very pleased with some of the things the team has shown me that they're working and progressing on. And then, of course, we have some really good racetracks coming up for us over the summer, and that I'm, again, feeling really confident about. So it's good and it's bad, because when you have 3 wins, you look back and you say, man, we could probably have 5 or 6 if I'd have done this better, or something would have fallen our way. But that's okay. It's been a good year, and we're really proud of it, but certainly hungry for much, much more, Reed.
And how big would a road course win be on your bucket list, considering
Yeah.
how close you've been to 5 wins?
Well, I wouldn't put it above this racetrack, but it would be certainly a big one. I can understand why there was so much buzz about when Kyle won at all the tracks, and I feel like we have an opportunity to do that. We've been close. Checking off Darlington and Indianapolis last year was 2 really big marks for me. Sonoma would be, in my mind, one of the biggest accomplishments of my career, because that track is just so very difficult to win at and so technically challenging. And we've had very limited success there. So I look at that probably as one of my worst tracks in Cup. And if we were able to win there, that would be quite a hurdle to overcome. But I can't say it would mean more than winning here. Again, this is a track where we've had a lot of almost the exact opposite of Sonoma. We've ran really, really well here for a lot of years, and just for whatever reason, the win hasn't come. But I feel like we're in a good spot to hopefully check this one off.
We'll go to Chase, then George, and then Steve.
Chase William, NASCAR.com. Brad, going off a previous question about what it would mean to you to win in your home state, what would it mean to you if you won on Sunday? You would put the Mustang in victory lane in Michigan, obviously, for the first time. Mm-hmm. So what would that mean to you to be able to put the Mustang in victory lane in Detroit in Ford's backyard?
Well, I think, Chase, first off, I would say I had the privilege of having dinner with the Ford family last night, and all the Ford drivers got together to do such at the Henry Ford Estate in Dearborn. And while we were there, Mr. Edsel Ford, or as we like to call him, the godfather of Ford performance, got up and gave a speech. And one of the things he said is that Ford's winning percentage here was almost 50% at the Cup level, and how much it means to him to have success in what they consider to be their backyard. And I think anyone else would probably consider the same as well. And it really struck me how much it means, because sometimes we forget those things, right? We're racing 30-some times a year and traveling all over, and we get very much into a routine where it's 1 week at a time, and you try not to look too far ahead, but honestly you do. And so you forget the significance sometimes of individual races, especially in the middle of the season, and what they mean to different people, and to the manufacturers that have for so long been the lifeblood of our sport, and so many, of course, are based here out of Detroit. It means the world to them to have success in front of their executive teams and core employees, white collar, blue collar. And I know it means a lot to them to bring home that manufacturer's trophy. I think that was one of the smartest moves this track ever made, was making the manufacturer's trophy, because they take it very, very seriously. So hopefully we can, do just that and help Mustang get its first win here at the Cup level. Again, I think we'll have a terrific opportunity to do so.
Down right in front here, George.
George Poley, the Macomb Daily. Brad, what's been the best thing, surprising or otherwise, about the Mustang and its performance?
I'd say the best thing, George, is just the forethought put into it. It was put together with a team that I feel like took it very, very seriously. And in doing so, I think, one, it gave all the drivers and teams within Ford Performance maybe a boost of confidence. That would be the right term, I would say, in Ford and their technical capabilities and some of the additions that were made to the team, the Ford Performance team. And I think that was, I don't want to say that was a surprise, because that wouldn't be the right word. It was a big boost, without a doubt. And I think we've seen that effort pay off. the car came right on the racetrack and was competitive immediately. And the experiences I had about a year ago when they were in the middle of the design, I felt like that would be the case, which is why I don't say surprised. But I felt like the process and the people behind it were the strongest I'd ever seen, and a huge leap forward from what I'd seen in the years past. So, there's a lot of people that make up that team that make it possible, and from Mark Rushbrook, who runs Ford Performance, on down, and I think that their efforts are kind of unsung sometimes, so I don't mind kind of patting them on the back. But they really wanted to make sure that this car came out and lived up to the Mustang brand of excellence. And I would say at this point in time, they've by far succeeded.
Go to Steve over here on the left.
Steve Schweitzer, the Lasco Press. Brad, if I could get you to come in on a couple of things. Eric Almirola was in town a month ago doing a promo for the race weekend. It was his opinion that with the new engine package and speeds being reduced significantly, that it was very likely you'd see more side-by-side racing here at MIS. The opinion he offered was that running 200 plus miles per hour here was the extent of the abilities of the tires and also the vehicle. So would you comment on that, and also comment, is the reduction in speed going to help with the grip situation that you mentioned?
I didn't catch your name. What was it? I'm sorry.
Steve.
Steve. I think so. I think he's right. I want to think he's right. I can tell you that, going back to what I was saying earlier, I can't remember if it was to Dustin, but we get caught up sometimes so much in the week to week, and we had a few weeks of, I think, really big high marks for the sport with Charlotte and Kansas, and a lot of confidence built up, and then probably didn't follow that up at Pocono, and so it's hard to say exactly what we're going to see. I can tell you that the experience of driving a Cup car with last year's rules was really unparalleled by any other track. The speed was just massive, and the cars were just ripping it through the corners and down the straightaway, of course, very much on the edge. And it's really hard to explain what that's like as a race car driver, because this track was faster than any other, and you really felt it, especially we used to have the morning practice session Saturday morning, and the track would be cool, and the cars would just really, really be flying. And that feeling at 9 a.m. in the morning was it's hard to explain, very hard to explain. It was super intense, would probably be the best way I could describe it. So there's part of me that's going to miss that. The part I'm not going to miss is the knowledge that if something broke on the car, or that if there was some kind of accident of sorts that you were going to hit very, very hard, I'm not going to miss that part. I can promise you that at those speeds. Or that you could possibly, of course, takeoff speeds on these cars is in the 180s, and we were going, 215, 220, and if anything went wrong, the opportunity to fly over the fence was not certainly something anyone was very excited about. So, there's, again, some trade-offs there. But I would say that I would not expect the race to be any less thrilling or engaging than it's been. I would expect it only to be more thrilling and engaging. As to what extent, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be just a little bit better or a lot better. I think it could be a lot better, and I share Eric's optimism. And I share his thoughts that slowing the cars down a little bit should increase the capabilities of the tires and the side-by-side racing and all those things. But I just don't know, without having a practice and seeing all the variables come together and make up the cake that it is, with all these different ingredients. So we'll see.
Time for one final question, if there is one. Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports, is a little offbeat. Apparently, NASA has announced today that they are allowing for the first time private citizens to visit the International Space Station.
Okay.
And they're not. It says it's not selling space vacations directly, but allowing commercial companies to arrange such trips at about $35,000 a night for the station's facilities.
That's it? That seems like a bargain.
You're going to be up there for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As a business owner, and some of the things that you do, I don't know if it would go beyond something like that. Is there a personal interest ever to go up there, or two, from with your company, is there some business aspect to go up there at some point? Maybe not immediately, but is there an interest?
Yeah.
in that?
Do I want to go to space? I mean, at the moment, no. But I'm 35 and I haven't had a full midlife crisis yet. So there's always time for that to change. I'm limited by some of the things I can say because of some government rules that our company's involved with. But I can tell you that the space sector is one of the primary interests of the companies that I have, and that we are engaged in those things. But I can't give any of the explanations or examples of how or where. But I would expect to play a key role in it along the way.
There would be maybe a business interest at some point having somebody with your company go up there if that was.
I wouldn't say necessarily a person, but more the technologies and the equipment to achieve the missions.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Have a good one.